Ever since Luffy's train with Hyogoro, Luffy has been using Gear 4 Bowman more often than he has before. Normally, he would use Gear 4 against very tough opponents like Doflamingo, Cracker, Katakuri, Big Mom, Kaido, situations where Gear 2 and Gear 3 just clearly were not enough, and Gear 4 would fill in the gap, and that is essentially his quote-unquote ultimate power. Now, however, after Ryou training, Luffy has used his Gear 4 against a ship, comboing with Law and Kid against the ship, and against a number giant, who you would honestly think wouldn't require a Gear 4 to take down in the first place. Frankie used one Radical Beam, and one of these guys was done. So if one Radical Beam can do the job, a Gear 4 Con Gun seems a bit, just a slight tad bit much. So you can't but wonder, what exactly is going on here? Monkey D. Luffy. Now, to be fair, against Ulti, it seemed like Gear 4 was warranted. It seemed like her full transformation state probably did hold a tremendous amount of power, physical power, therefore the Gear 4 would have been required against her. So now let's talk about, in full detail, the potential changes to Luffy's Gear 4 state and what this means for the future when it comes to Luffy fighting against Kaido. But before all that, if you do support your boy and you're enjoying the content at large when it comes to Twitch, when it comes to DLive, of course when it comes to the YouTube vids themselves, it'll be awesome as all hell if you could support your boy with a like, a subscription, and of course click on the bell for notifications. And if you don't know, my Twitter and my Discord are also in the description box down below, where I do post regularly on Discord and on Twitter. So on that note, arigato, muchas gracias, thank you for being awesome. And let's get right into it, because there are some details I think folks have been missing that may be very important in gauging the Gear 4 Luffy that we see right now in the story. Now, what's important to note off the gate, off the rip, is because Oda has never actually fully fleshed out the intricacies of Haki, it makes things more difficult to gauge. That's just a fact. It just does. Haki is unfortunately vague when it comes to its details and its intricacies. But nonetheless, we go in on the subject matter. So, one of the key issues that Luffy's had with Gear 4 is the amount of time he can spend in Gear 4, clearly. If he spends too much time in Gear 4, he would run out of Haki and need a 10-minute break before he could get that Haki back. There is a Haki limit, there is a Haki pool that everyone has. Gear 4 siphons too much Haki from this pool. So think back to Luffy versus Katakuri when he need to run away. However, ever since the Hyogoro training, Luffy has been going to Gear 4, if you've noticed, only for one attack. Against the ship with Kid and Law, and against the number that Luffy knocked out, and then combo with Drake and he knocked out a number, Luffy just used one attack on both occasions, and then after that one attack, he went immediately back into base form and was fine. So Luffy is wisely controlling his time that he spends in Gear 4. Now this could be a tactic on Luffy's part to ultimately conserve his strength, the bulk of his strength, for Kaido. Even though we've seen Luffy use Haki against Katakuri for hours, Gear 4 is what siphons the most Haki. I would argue even despite the Hyogoro training, it still probably siphons off a lot of Haki in general. And based on Yamato's cuffs, Luffy starts to kind of concentrate to focus on using Ryou to then remove the cuffs and that kind of stuff. So there's a chance that Luffy at this point in time still can't use Ryou instantly in attacks mid-fight. You have to concentrate and focus on getting the Ryou shot, like almost like a charged attack, if you would, rather than an instantaneous attack. Like if Luffy's using a Jet Gatling in Gear 2, could he apply instantly the Ryou to all those fists? Maybe, but we're not too sure at this point in time. And the evidence right now would state otherwise. But at the end of the day, this could easily be a tactic on Luffy's part to conserve his strength, to use as little Haki as he can before the main event fight against Kaido. What's also very important is that Luffy is using Gear 4 in these situations, and he's not feeling drained. Or at least he's feeling much less drained. I guess you could say a bit drained, but nowhere near as drained. Very important here. Nowhere near as drained as when he fought against Big Mom, when he clashed against Big Mom. Big Mom did the forearm block. He did the con gun. After the con gun, he got out of Gear 4 and was so drained to where Sanji had to grab him as they're running away. But again, in these cases, Luffy's been fine. But he can still fight and his Haki's still usable. He's still good to go. Which is a far cry, again, from what happened with Big Mom on Whole Cake Island. Now, some folks do say that Big Mom did something somehow to Luffy in that instant, but I don't see how that works. Because her powers don't even work in that way. I don't know how Big Mom, number one, would have the ability to do something to Luffy, like let's say take some of his stamina with her soul powers? No. It makes no sense. So, that's something that folks have noted to, but I don't buy it for a second, number one. And number two is that after the first Gear 4 against Katakuri, he was able to actually run away and grab Brule and then bail. And we actually see that he could actually attack still, like use Gear 3 attacks, but his Gear 3s had no armor Haki to them. So instead of Elephant Gun, it was a giant pistol. Now granted, the reason why Luffy was still active after that first Gear 4 against Katakuri and he didn't mimic what happened with Big Mom or with Doflamingo, and the anime, I believe, even Cracker as well, is unclear. Like, to this day, we just don't know why exactly Luffy had the stamina back then, but in the previous times from then, he did not. So nonetheless, what's important to know, obviously, is just the simple fact that Luffy is no longer feeling drained when he goes into Gear 4, which does show a level of improvement in his Gear 4. Now, this could mean that number one, because of the Ryou training, his overall quantity of Haki has improved, meaning he has more Haki to essentially use and tap into. Or number two, the quality of his Haki, his Armored Haki and Armored Haki Hardening has improved. So what would that mean? That would mean, let's say, maybe his Armored Haki Hardening is now on the same level as Katakuri's Armored Haki Hardening. And this is all based on outside of Ryou. This is what I would call stage 2 of Armored Haki, but it's just Armored Haki Hardening. There's Armored Haki Hardening, then there's the Ryou, or there's the flow of Armored Haki, or the aura that you put on top of the Armored Haki Hardening, and then there's the stage where that aura can actually go inside of objects and do internal damage to said objects. So in the case of Luffy and Katakuri in Whole Cake Island, Katakuri's Armored Haki Hardening, his Edged Mochi was superior, and his Peerless Donuts too, were superior than Luffy's Armored Haki Hardening. And then Luffy's Armored Haki Hardening, for the most part, continued to be inferior to Katakuri's, even when it was Snake Man Luffy versus Katakuri. Snake Man Luffy's punches, Armored Haki Hardening, the quality of that, even then, was inferior to Katakuri's. Now, it could be some strange thing, or like, let's say Oda reveals that that was actually Ryou, and all that is encompassed under Ryou. Like,
what?
So what I'm saying is, now that Luffy can go into Gear 4 and not be drained, this could indicate that he has either more Haki to spare, or the quality of his Haki is superior. So it's simple to gauge, it really is. But the problem is that because Oda is very vague with Haki, it becomes kind of difficult to really actually perceive these things in full detail, in full context. So now we covered all of that stuff. What other ways has Luffy improved potentially? It's all potentially, of course, in his Gear 4 bound man. This, I'm going to say off the tip, this could easily be an artistic choice on Oda's part. But Oda has not shown us Luffy biting into his forearm when it comes to the latest transformations of Gear 4. It would then imply that he's going into Gear 4 Bound Man instantly. Luffy in these chapters seemingly is going into Gear 4 Bound Man instantly. In chapter 990, he's running towards the number as he speaks to the crew, and then instantly transforms into Bound Man. In chapter 975, you have the one page of Kid, Luffy, and Law going in. And on Luffy's particular section, there's that one small panel of Luffy kind of breathing, and we see the steam from the mouth, but he's still in base form because we don't see the Haki around the eyes. And all of a sudden, the next panel over, he instantly transforms into Bound Man. So we're not seeing him bite on the forearm as usual when he goes into Gear 4. So it could easily be an artistic choice on Oda's part. Yes, obviously. But if it's not, then I have to acknowledge it, because that is a tremendous boon for Luffy to be able to go in Bound Man instantly. And in the first place, how could Luffy even use Muscle Balloon in the first place without breathing air like he normally would through the forearm? Well, the same notion would apply, potentially, of course, without the need of him breathing air into his thumb, into his bones, when he used Gear 3 or Pseudo Gear 3 against Urashima. Remember that. Remember that. That's a very important thing. Luffy was able to expand his arm to like a Gear 3-ish size without the need of blowing into his thumb. He just did it. He just did it. It just naturally expanded. That's pivotal. If you apply that same concept to his, let's say, Gear 3 or Pseudo Gear 3 against Urashima, and you apply that to a Gear 4 or to his muscles instead of his bones, then it would actually apply all the same. Where his body would, let's say, he naturally breathes in, and then his muscles naturally expand, and then when he does that, the Haki flow just very quickly now applies to his body, and then boom, he's instantly into Gear 4. That's kind of nuts. That's actually kind of nuts. It's not like it's impossible because we saw it with his Gear 3. Again, it's kind of Pseudo Gear 3. It's kind of like the gear that he made against Urashima was big, but then when he blows into it, it's actually much bigger. And recall these two things. Number one, during the Katakuri fight, Katakuri shut him down before he could transform into Gear 4. And that is a clear, glaring weakness of the ability, where you have to actually breathe into your thumb or breathe into your forearm, and then you have to wait until the air expands throughout your entire body. It's a glaring weakness, and Katakuri shut that down. But if he can actually expand his body naturally through, let's say, natural breath, or let's say through Death Root Mastery, potentially going along the lines of an awakening, but let me not say that now. Another video for another damn day. If he can naturally expand his body in this way, then that removes a pivotal weakness of the ability itself. And then also recall Ulti. In chapter 983, when she was fully transformed into her full-on dinosaur mode, she had both of his hands pinned, both of his arms pinned, and yet Luffy somehow was still gonna go into Gear 4. Normally, how could Luffy go into Gear 4 if both of his arms were pinned and he couldn't breathe in the necessary air into his forearm? Unless his Death Root powers have now grown to the point where he can now just expand into Muscle Balloon and then apply Haki immediately into Gear 4.
That's pretty neat.
It could be nice like that. Luffy could be nice like that right now. That's kind of nuts. And all of this could mean that Luffy is able to go from Gear 4 Bound Man to Gear 4 Snake Man practically instantly, very quickly, without the need of wasting Haki.
It's getting hot in here.
If Luffy has that much control now of his Death Root power and his body and his Haki, so he's expanding and he's producing Haki like that at will, nigh instantly, then you could apply it all the same to Bound Man and to Snake Man. And Luffy, it is possible that, let's say during the Kaido fight, we see Luffy switch up between Gear 4 states at will, and doing so for a long period of time. Woo! If Luffy can do something like that, then it is clear to me that he has achieved, without a shadow of a doubt, Gear 4 mastery. In conclusion, yes, in conclusion, it could all be me just going too deep into it all. And it could easily be, in terms of the time frame and Haki pool thing, it could easily be Luffy just being smart and actually conserving his strength and Haki until the final battle against Kaido. And when it comes to the Gear 4 without needing to bite his forearm, that could easily be an artistic choice on Oda's part. I'm saying it now. Of course, of course, of course.
Of course, of course.
You don't know until Oda actually tells you. And even then, sometimes Oda can tell you something and then he winds up recanting later on because of just reasons.
Okay.
So yes, of course, obviously, I'm letting you guys know this could be me going too deep. Fair enough, fine. I won't take all the blame for this one if I am wrong or some of that sort, because Oda himself does not fully flesh out Haki. We are almost 1,000 chapters deep, and Haki still, even Devil Fruits, but Haki even more so, has so many gaps in its intricacies that Oda has not filled. They're so vague at this point in time that maybe Oda will never fill them. Maybe, not too sure. But there is one thing I am very confident in. There is one thing I'm very confident in, and that is Oda is making Luffy use Gear 4 so often. To me, this is a sign that Luffy has another Gear 4 state or a Gear 5. I did a video on that, a pretty good video on that, honestly. Check that out. There'll be a thing over here. Boom. Very good video. Check it out. And so, my friends, on that note, if you haven't done so already, it'll be awesome as all hell to use the device you have on your side. It is called Zamaosu. You use Zamaosu to click, 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 rate the video, to click, 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 subscribe, to click on that bell to join the squad, and let me know in the comment section down below your stance on the subject matter at hand. I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side. Be easy, stay safe, and have a nice God damn day.